One great question that does get asked all the time is what pikeman is best in technically open field scenarios and getting swarmed at? Because obviously if you are playing the game and you are playing pikemen, one of the greatest things, to be honest, when you are playing these bad boys and even watching them in the open field is kind of full sending it and seeing 5 to 6 marchers just swarm them and just slowly just kill themselves, and this pikeman kind of miraculously walks out like the Messiah, right? I absolutely love it every time. But which pikeman is best doing it, right? It's a really good question that many of you guys have asked. So what we try to do on the Pioneer server is test this the best we can. And the one thing we do want to kind of say in the disclaimer from me and Steve, and we do apologize, and many of the Pioneer server beta people will know what we're about to say, but the Marshal pikeman didn't have access to the Sacred Sage. So obviously they're going to be lacking their one damage ring that they do need in order to do really big amounts of the damage in here. However, what we did was try to equip them with the best defensive rings to allow them to basically take no damage, and let's see how much they are able to deal. While we did run Messenger and obviously the Radiant Guardian, the Tactical Pikeman, and for the Warrior Pikeman. But we're going to be showcasing that all on tape. We've got it all recorded again through the Pioneer server, and what we're going to start off with is the Tactical Pikeman. And the way we're going to be testing the way or how good these guys are in swarm scenarios is through the technically supply bounties. Many of you guys suggested through the live streams, if we're going to do this test, why not do it similar to like Sigami does and a few others through the supply bounty event? And I thought, you know what, it kind of does make sense for pikemen, because pikemen do want to get surrounded. Those units aren't the super strongest, but they can kill you if you're not built for it, right? So, as you can kind of see here in the background, we're running this lineup. It's kind of been on loop, so you can be able to see the skills, obviously the signet rings, and the gear. And as you'll notice on all of these marchers, as we go through the gear, if we just pause it right now, and I let it do maybe a little quick zoom, you will see the gear has obviously the gems on 3 pieces of the gear, but no chest. And that is again because on the Pioneer server, there was no turn-based gems. And because there's no turn-based gems, it would be perfectly unfair to put the secondary strike ones in Belisarius, to put the passive ones in the Warriors, but no turn-based there. So the way we've tried to make it as fair as possible is to allow them to have the same type of stats throughout. So everyone is rocking the same things, which is unit capacity, hero might, and that is it. Literally, hero might. Apart from, obviously, if you're strategy, you got strategy on. So, with that now, all kind of fully explained, all the disclaimers said, let's get into the tests, right? So, the first test is on its way. It's going to be the Belisarius. So, I'm going to run just a couple of these tests just to showcase what they're available to do. And then what I'll do is, at the end of the video, kind of go over the full battle report in one go. And what you can see is all the different kind of trade ratios for that. And that's kind of what I'm going to be using at the moment to see how well they do. And one thing you'll notice with the tactical pikemen here, which are doing really good, I'm going to be honest, even though they are secondary strike damage dealers and they will target one guy first, while all the other damage is getting, you know, kind of thrown out too, and then kind of go one by one. What's really good about these guys, every clip that you're about to see, obviously of clip 1, 2, and 3, is the fact that they are converting those troops. That assimilation is quite massive for this march, right? It's allowing you to obviously not need to rely on your hospital to heal, because it's just instantly converting those troops from the damage you're dealing and kind of giving you that free self-sustain, right? Which is kind of nuts when you start to look at it, especially in a swarm scenario, because as you can see, it has done a pretty fine job at clearing up. And there we go, 1 minute 5 victory, and it's done. So moving on to the second clip, this is just again the exact same thing, again just rolling down the Belisarius in there. We're going to see the exact same thing. However, I will time lapse this one, so it's not going to be as long as the last one, because it will be very similar. You'll see all the damage coming out, really great healing coming out of the Belisarius and March here, and that is because, again, of the assimilation from the good old Elizabeth's passive, which I absolutely love. Makes me jealous that people have this match fully built and I don't. Honestly, it's crazy strong. But look at it, absolutely fantastic. And if we just kind of skip through here to the ending kind of closing credits, you can see how well it has done. So moving on to the next kind of clip here, we're going into the kind of the warriors. We do have 3 tests, don't worry, of the tacticals. You'll see it in the battle report for you guys, but just to keep things nice and smooth, we're just going to showcase off what we're running here. And you'll see, even for the warrior pikemen, we were kind of fun and fair, and we did test out a couple of different configurations. That does include changing the positions of heroes, and obviously I think Barbarossa too, so you can really get a good idea of what the match is capable of in a swarming scenario. So what we've done, just to kind of be completely transparent like I did with the last one, you'll see how all the gems was set up. So if I kind of go back a little bit, you'll see just like before, it is the same unit capacity. We've got the might on, and then that's it. That is all we've got. And if you was a strategy user, you'd have the strategy gems on. So this is trying to be as fair as we can. So when we move into the actual gameplay now, you'll see how strong the Cyrus is. And Cyrus is doing Cyrus things. That is the best way of explaining this. And it is absolutely beautiful to watch, because look at how much damage this guy is dishing out in all of these different marches, doing a similar thing, targeting 1 march at a time still, with kind of their normal attacks, obviously for their skills, but absolutely obliterating them. And one thing you'll notice, they are still very, very healthy compared to the Belisarius match. The Belisarius match did appear to take a little bit more, obviously, damage in total. One thing you'll notice as well when it comes to the skills that we've got triggered, even in the last section of this little part, our good old Pioneer server did screw us over, as you guys will notice. This did 1 second faster, just to kind of interrupt that. But one thing you'll have noticed is we had to use tenacity, and this isn't by choice. They forced us to do it, because the sad thing is we couldn't run a full 4-star metal. And if you do have a full 4-star metal, it does out-heal the tenacity, especially for the warrior pikeman in these scenarios that's taking multiple hits, especially for a long time. It does out-sustain tenacity. So just take that as well as a little bit of extra info for today's video, because look how good the warrior pikemen are doing, and that is not even with their best healing setup on their march. And this should kind of slowly set up a precedent. And obviously at the end of the video, I'm going to give you guys kind of a good summary of everything, plus a little bit obviously kind of a tip and trick and the basics that you kind of should understand from pikemen from time to time now, right? So warrior pikemen, absolutely demolishing it, right? So let's just kind of move on to the marshal pikeman, and this one was, I will be honest, a little bit just disappointing, and I do think it is because of not having a sacred sage. So we were running as much of the troop reduction as possible, and just to showcase, it was completely locked. We had no use of it, so if we did, we would be using it. And there was some other alternatives, and I would love to hear you guys suggest maybe some other alternatives that we could have used. I was considering, as you might have seen there, the Ring of the Deer, just to maybe boost up potentially the Julius Caesar or the Octavian's damage output, but I don't know if that was going to make so much of a difference. But I'd love to hear you guys think. I'd love to hear your guys' theory on it. But with that now, you'll see, obviously, everything else in the match exactly the same as before. And the thing is, when we go into actually now using this match on the open field, this was kind of, let me just say, disappointing But it is the sad reality of martial pikemen, because yes, I will say I have seen some amazing martial pikemen in the open field do some amazing damage, some great work out there, but they are not built for sustained fighting. The issue is, as you guys will notice, they are turn-based combaters. And because they're every turn and they're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and then doing their turn, as you can see, it really does not help them in a swarm scenario. You can see they're not doing nowhere near as good as the other marchers, but this is, again, without that Sacred Sage. So it could be completely different, maybe, with the Sacred Sage here. So I don't want to be too blunt with the martial pikeman here. However, when we go into the battle reports and we can go through basically all of the different configurations and stuff that we actually did do some testing on, and obviously we've got even more below this, but obviously there was only like certain thresholds. As you can see, we did 13 quick ones there. Before here, you can see even more testing done, right? It is what it is. But when we go into these kind of ones, you can see the warrior pikeman, no matter what, 1 to 10 plus, and that is with the worst healing. So just remember, we traded so well with these warrior pikemen, and we was using the worst healing setup. So already that should already set the tone of what you're going to see. And when you scroll down now, you'll notice we have the Barbarossa set up just for those guys that wanted to see the Barbarossa set up. And if you notice the very top line and the second line, it actually turned out to be the same. And one thing you'll notice is with the Barbarossa setup, yes, you will tank more, meaning you will get normally more fights out of the formation, which may result in better merit reports in a long term. However, with the actual Boudica in this kind of setup, the Boudica obviously being a damage dealer, and especially the way we set her up, as you saw in the video, she is going to be dealing way more damage so much quicker in the swarm, which does actually result in better merit performance for this match. So if you care about short fights and all about getting as many merits in a short amount of time as possible, to be honest, the Boudica is outperforming the Barbarossa in that regard. However, the Barbarossa is still good. It's more for longer fights and pretty accessible as well as a hero. So coming back on there and kind of like scrolling back down on what we've got obviously the Julius Caesar sadly died. So obviously we can't really do any more. I didn't want to kind of put him through that again because I really did feel like it was a bit unfair for that match compared to the others. But again, you can see here some more Cyrus tests doing absolute work for it. And then even down below, the Belisarius match, even matching the good old, warrior pikeman. And when we go into like the comparisons, you can see, just for argument's sake, look at how much damage our Cyrus was doing. 220k damage that was. Obviously 3.9k healing. We've got 67k damage on that good old Boudica, and even Mansa with 34k. Nothing too shabby for a support hero at all, right? So you can see really good performance here for the main man. So a lot of you guys looking at this should be pretty happy to see what you're able to see there, right? Coming down, we can just showcase another couple of these reports, obviously in the details and stuff. So if we kind of skip forward here and we go into this comparison, this is just kind of a little bit different in the skills used, and you'll notice again, really good actual, playback on the actual report for it. So really actually impressed with the warrior pikemen for obviously they go to, and again 225k to 51k for the guys there. Scrolling down, I think I do click on the good old tax pikeman eventually. If I don't, I do feel sorry for them because they did actually do a really good job. And one thing that they did better, and I did miss it on this, so I do apologize, but I do remember this from testing it, was when we go into game and we actually look at the tactical pikemen, the thing is, what the tactical pikemen do better than the warrior pikemen, as you guys can imagine, is technically healing. So if you want to try to save the most amount of troops, it is been shown that Elizabeth herself in this matchup just outperforms everyone else. She can basically save between 10 to 15,000 troops in conversion, which is kind of bonkers when you think about it, right? In that assimilation that we're doing. And that is happening all the time, right? So when it comes to these different pikemen, the best way I would say it is warrior pikemen are the best swarmers at just dealing damage and actually getting through it. And no matter what, they really are. They are designed, honestly, to be swarmed. And when they get swarmed, they absolutely nuke you. And you wish you obviously didn't hit them, especially when you get the metal on and they are doing obviously more healing. The second best is easily going to be the tactical pikeman. And the thing is, if you guys are wondering, yes, the tactical pikeman matches do, without obviously gear involved, but with the signet rings on, your tactical pikeman does beat warriors. And that is just because in a 1v1 scenario, warrior pikemans aren't really built for that. They're not really caring about the 1v1s. They're good in him, but they're not built for it compared to a secondary strike user like Belisarius, like a Shocker is. They are built for single target damage. And that's really important because when it comes to obviously converting those troops, you do get to convert a lot more. So what I would suggest is if you want a march that swarms, does really good damage, but also saves you troops, I prefer the Belisarius for that. But if you're a bit more of a Chad and you want to do as much damage as possible, warriors is definitely the king of that. But lastly and not leastly is the marshal pikemen. And the marshal pikemen do try their best. They try to do what they can, but they're not really designed to do this. They're really good at city hopping. They are good also if you can kind of just get them in combat and trigger off obviously their open field skills, such as the obviously ram cam to buff up your heroes, and when auto comes you can buff up your heroes even further. And once they've done that, you can kind of like get them safe and, you know, not let them do anything else until the next time you need them. But yeah, in a swarming scenario, I wouldn't be recommending doing them. And yes, they can do good in PvP. People have seen it myself, but the results here kind of don't lie. And obviously we didn't get Secret Sage, it is what it is, but I don't think it would have changed too much of what we saw. So that is today's video. Swarming tests. It was kind of the last couple of videos I wanted to talk about, especially in the Age of Empires mobile. And if this hasn't answered your question, I would always go for warrior pikemen as the #1 DPS swarming march. This is the #1 kind of survival march, and then do not use marshal pikemen to swarm. It's as simple as that. And let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you agree that warrior pikemen are the kings of being swarmed and obviously doing better damage trades and getting more merits in a shorter time than the tactical pikemen, who are better at actually just keeping troops and keeping your actual power up there instead of obviously filling up that good old hospital while in combat? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until the next one though, stay safe, stay sneaky. Peace out.